Hi, Pine Grove Panthers. I know I'm dressed a little goofy. It is dressed like your student day at school today, and I am my son Jonathan because he is a PA baseball player. But we're coming up on the end of the year, and Pride Month is just a couple weeks away. We don't normally have library during June, so I wanted to make a video where I read you guys a book about where the pride flag came from, who created it, what it means to lots of people. And so when you see it flying outside of our school or around town, you'll just know some of its history. So this story is called The Rainbow Flag, Bright, Bold, and Beautiful. I'll try to make sure you can see all the pictures because obviously they're pretty because they're rainbow. June 25th, 1978 was an important day. It was the day that the first rainbow flags were unfurled at the San Francisco Gay Freedom Day Parade. The flags had been made by a group of very good friends. These friends were a family. They shared almost everything, cooking meals together, borrowing clothes from each other, and talking late into the night. First, there was Gilbert. He had served in the Army when he was younger, and now he designed and sewed imaginative clothes. He was also interested in politics and human rights. There was Fairy Argyle, there was James, and there was Cleve. Fairy made costumes in every material and color and pattern you could imagine. Gilbert called her the Queen of Tie-Dye. James sewed and took beautiful photographs. Cleve had studied history and politics and worked for fair and equal treatment for everyone. And then there was Harvey, a city supervisor. He made sure that the buses ran on time, the streets were clean, and people were paid decent wages. Gilbert had been born in Kansas, but it was in San Francisco that he found his community. So we can see San Francisco here. You guys recognize the Golden Gate Bridge. It was a city of steep hills lined with brightly painted houses, a city of artists and musicians and people who cared about peace and justice. Families marched to protest war, carrying signs they had painted together. Gilbert and his friends were happy to be surrounded by energy, color, and music. Gilbert loved flags. He read about them and dreamed about them and doodled them in a little notebook that he carried in his pocket. He wanted to design flags that people would be proud to hold and hang and wave. He knew how to make flags too. He knew which colors looked energetic or solemn when you put them next to each other and which kinds of cloth fluttered best in the wind. The study of flags had the most wonderful of names, ones that Gilbert adored for its musical mix of letters and sounds. Vexillology. I hope I'm saying that right, but I never heard that word before either. He liked to stroll through his neighborhood whistling the word out loud. Vexillology. Flags come in so many shapes and sizes, with so many colors and symbols. Animals, letters, flowers, stars, and stripes. Gilbert had once seen a flag bearing vegetables. Flags tell us about history and belonging. They tell stories of geography and nations. They remind people where their families came from. They bring people together because of ideas they have in common. Flags are beautiful and clever works of design. Flags appear at important events and celebrations, such as the bicentennial in 1976, the 200th anniversary of the founding of the United States of America, when the American flag seemed to wave over the whole country. At the Olympic Games, athletes from each nation march proudly with their flag. Flags are flown at half-mast to mark the deaths of presidents and soldiers, and the astronauts of Apollo 11 planted a U.S. flag on the moon. Gilbert noticed them all. But in San Francisco, there was an important event that did not have a flag. The Gay Freedom Day Parade was a demonstration of love and community that took place every year. It had once been a march with people demanding the right to love whomever they wanted. But by 1978, it was also a big party called the Pride Parade, which crowded the streets with people in costumes and makeup and glitter. There was music and dancing, there were speeches, chants, and signs in brilliant hues. The color and noise and fun meant that the marchers and their message would be seen and heard. But they had to be brave. Not everyone agreed with them, and some of those people made their feelings clear. So Gilbert and Fairy and their friends took up the challenge of designing a flag to fly at the head of the parade. Harvey, who was the first openly gay supervisor of the big city, thought this was a grand idea. They all knew the flag had to be extraordinary. Gilbert wondered what it might look like. It should be bright so everyone can see it. It should wave and flutter and snap at the front of the march. It should boldly lead the crowd under a symbol of community and pride. And it should be beautiful, like the love celebrated by the parade. Gilbert sat with James and Fairy on a stoop on Grove Street. He thought about all the people he loved. He thought about the crazy kaleidoscope colors of the disco where he danced, and he looked up into the sky. There against the milky blue, streaked with airplane trails, the friends saw. Yes, that was it, Gilbert thought. It would be a rainbow flag. Rainbows belong to everyone. They made people happy and stood for optimism and cheer. You can't hide a rainbow, and you shouldn't have to hide your feelings. The rainbow would be a perfect symbol for love. The friends raced to the garment district to buy long pieces of white cotton. They also bought dye in 8 different colors: hot pink, red, orange, yellow, green, turquoise, indigo, and violet. Where would they go make a huge multicolored flag? The Gay Community Center on Grove Street had an attic, and in the attic there were old plastic tubs. Many helpers took turns filling the tubs with hot water and adding different dyes to each one, plus a little salt to make the dye stick. Using long sticks and sometimes their hands, they swooshed and swirled the white cloth in fig purple, turtle green, lemon yellow, and lipstick pink until they had stripes in every color of the rainbow. The next step was to wash the fabric in hot water, which would lock the colors in forever. Gilbert and Fairy took the sopping wet stuff to a nearby laundromat and piled it into 8 washing machines, one for each hue. One by one, the washing machine doors lit up, pink and orange and green and all the other colors. Gilbert and Fairy thought it was exciting, but the owner was less than thrilled. They had to grab the fabric and run away lickety-split, trailing jewel-colored cloth behind them. The next day, a few customers found that their underwear had turned mysteriously rose pink, wizard purple, or red. The rainbow-dyed fabrics were hung up to dry on the rooftop of the community center, where they billowed in the wind and made the most luscious and beautiful shapes against the sky. James knew how to work a sewing machine, and he helped Gilbert sew the colors together, their four hands running stripe after stripe under the bobbing needles to create 2 large flags. Blue was joined as turquoise, to red, to orange, to yellow, to green, to purple, to violet, and hot pink, all of them cascading through the machine like a waterfall. Gilbert and Fairy added some tie-dye stars to one flag's corner, in honor of how beautiful and powerful the American flag had looked at the bicentennial. Everyone stepped back to see the vivid, magnificent, joyous objects that they had dyed, cut, stitched, ironed, and created together, from an idea that began in Gilbert's multicolored imagination. Each color by itself was splendid, but together they were glorious. On the day of the parade, a crowd of people gathered in the plaza in the middle of San Francisco. There were activists declaring their right to live, love, and make a family. There were citizens celebrating their community. And of course, Gilbert and Harvey and Fairy and Cleve and James. Gilbert was wearing his favorite cream-colored pajamas, made from a silky satin that billowed in the wind, like a flag. The flag unfurled at the front of the parade and was quickly picked up by the wind, so that the rainbow waved, swelled, and danced. The marchers cheered and whistled and banged their drums. James popped up with his camera and, flash, took a picture. The rainbow flag is a tradition that continues to this day. The design is shown all over the world, in government buildings, on windowsills, and atop flagpoles in front yards. It's also hanging in the lobby of the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, where it greets visitors and lets them know that everyone's ideas and hopes and dreams are important and welcomed. And of course, that flags are brilliant and clever works of art. But in some countries where the right to love is still not given to everyone, the flag is forbidden. And so the Pride Parade remains more than a party, and the rainbow flag remains more than a beautiful thing. They are reminders to keep fighting. Flags come in so many shapes and sizes, with so many colors and symbols. They mean a million different things. And because of Gilbert, Fairy, and their friends, there is a flag that stands for pride, respect, and LOVE, love. So here's a picture of the flag that's in the Museum of Modern Art. There's actually one of the flags that they made in this book is in San Francisco at a museum too. So that's pretty cool. All right, so during Pride Month, when you see a rainbow flag, now you know who designed it, where it came from, and what it means. All right, thanks, my Girl Panthers.